Hello everybody and welcome to this very special event. Today my name is Amanda O'Rourke and I'm your host, and the event we're going to be talking about is attracting your ideal client on LinkedIn. And I'm joined by someone very special, a LinkedIn expert in my eyes and in many others' eyes as well, I'm sure, and that's Divya Agrawal. Hello Divya.
Hi Amanda, so good to be here with you.
It's lovely to have you here, and I'm really hoping that a lot of people get value from this event because I, for one, am still very new to LinkedIn, and the platform confuses me and causes me some grief some days because I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. And certainly when I first joined the platform, I didn't really have any strategy and kind of just put anything out there that appealed to me at the time and thought maybe if I got a few likes and that it would help me along the way, but clearly it's a lot deeper than that and there's a lot more important things it should be doing. So today what we'll do is, if you don't mind, I'll be asking Divya a few questions which I've listed on the event itself, and then if any of you watching have got any questions, if you want to drop them in the comments box, then we can answer those at the end. There's bound to be some time. Well, hopefully there'll be some time. So please do interact as well if you really want to. Let us know if you're here, and if you have any questions yet, like I say, we can answer those later. So Divya, what I'd like to do to start with is to ask you if you could just let us know a little bit about you. I've known you only a short time, but in that time I've learned so much about LinkedIn, and you've helped me enormously. So I'm really delighted that you've agreed to do this with me. So yeah, if you could tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am a technology copywriter for IT companies, and I've worked with a lot of international clients. Now, when I started as a copywriter, it was really hard for me to just wrap my head around how do I reach these clients. And then I started using LinkedIn because I heard all these things about LinkedIn is the place for B2B copywriters and B2B companies in general. And so I started using LinkedIn. I experimented with a lot of things here and there. And then I just hit the right spot. And then once I did that, I had all these leads rolling in. And so that got me curious. And fast forward to this day, now I help coaches and copywriters and other solopreneurs generate high quality, consistent leads with LinkedIn.
And I actually can endorse that because we had a little chat only a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about how I wasn't being, not true to myself, but authentic enough and vulnerable enough on LinkedIn. And you encouraged me really deeply to explore that, and I did, and I got a lead straight away, which is like amazing. Anyway, so
that is so awesome. I know. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, but that was just because you encouraged me so much to experiment with it and just go with that idea, and it was just very powerful. So I can definitely endorse that. So first, sorry, go on.
Many people believe that LinkedIn is like a whole new world and on, but like it's definitely a different vibe to Facebook.
Yeah.
Or Instagram for that matter, but vulnerability in your content and all the things that work on other social media platforms do work here.
Yeah, it's really important to know that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first question we've got listed here on the thing was about ideal clients, and I mean this is a thing that I think a lot of people, it's banded around all the time, this definition of what is your ideal client. So can you tell me more about that for you? What's your definition?
Of course. So by my definition, there's no one definition of an ideal client. Like there's no the definition for an ideal client. It's just a matter of what's your definition of your ideal client. So even when I coach copywriters under my program, the LinkedIn Lead Gen Academy, I have a series of questions. It's like 10 to 12 pages of a really long questionnaire, and people do get some resistance working through it because we are not very used to sitting down and focusing on these things. But then it's so key because until and unless you know your ideal client inside out, you cannot build a marketing strategy, whether it's on LinkedIn or on Facebook or anywhere else. And so your ideal client, I would encourage you to ask 2 questions right now as you are tuning into this conversation. The first is describe your ideal client. So your ideal client can be a person, can be a single person, or it can be an organization. So for copywriters that work with coaches, for example, their ideal client is just one person. So then they can think about things like, what kind of a coach is it? Is it like just a mindset coach? Is it a branding coach, a marketing coach? What kind of coaches do I want to work with? If it's an organization, so if it's a single person, you can even go to the level of thinking, do I just work with males? Do I work with females? Where is my ideal client located? Are they in my country? Are they in France, Germany, the US, the UK? And those are a few ways to start nailing down your ideal client. And you want to get it as narrow as possible, so that then you are just talking to a single community of people. And so then as we do that, we start talking to the single community, and we start creating content that really relates to their problems, their pains, their desires. And that's what nails our marketing.
I think that's really important, because I think the resistance that I felt initially was that I didn't want to go down that route, because I didn't want to cut anybody off. There was a fear that somebody who might need my help wouldn't see it because I've gone too niche, if you like. So what would you say to that?
I would say, the classic, the term, the one sentence that comes up a lot when we are talking about niching, that, when you're talking to many people, you're not actually talking to anyone. So think about it this way. Can you nail down how many of your narrow set of ideal clients there are? If there are like 1 million of them, then you possibly cannot go around serving all those people. And so we just end up thinking on a really high level, when we just need to get really specific about it and really logical about it. And then, because this is a common resistance that comes up. If I just work with mindset coaches, what if another kind of a coach reaches out? Now, there's no harm working with another kind of a coach, but your messaging should attract one single kind of a person, so that when that person comes on and looks at your profile, looks at your content, they think, she is definitely for me.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And I think that's when the penny dropped for me last week, was that I started to speak to, and I see it as one person, although, like you say, it could be, you could have 1 million people in that pot of your ideal client. And I think it does help you with your messaging, and the whole idea that you're talking to that one person really helps you, hone that message, I think. So it's really important. It's something that we do all resist, I think, but it is something very important to nail from the outset, isn't it?
Right. And then not even if it's just a person, even if you are, let's say, a copywriter that works with organizations, just like I am a technology copywriter and I work with IT companies. Think about how big of these organizations do you work with? Do you work with organizations with 10 employees? Do you work with startups? Do you work with organizations with 500 employees? What kind of a revenue do they have? So when you get all these things in place, you take out a lot of guesswork from it. And then you are able to think, okay, this is my ideal client and this is who I'm speaking to. A startup has a set of different challenges than a full-grown organization of like 500 or 5,000 employees.
Of course, yeah. And I guess it's because, like you say, you're speaking to that that organisation or that person, and your message is clear, then there's no confusion, is there? And they do say, don't they, that confused people don't buy, because if you know
Exactly.
the approach I had originally, which was just put out messages here, there, and everywhere, and they weren't really directed at anybody in particular, people will
Yeah.
probably say, "Oh, that's a good message," and but they don't get what I'm about. So I think that's a really, really clear message that you've got there. So that's great.
Right.
So
And then the second thing that I want anyone to think about is, what stage of awareness is your ideal client at? Not just awareness of the problem, but awareness of the solution. So let's say you're a copywriter and you work with technology companies. Now, is your ideal client, or let's just niche down even more. Let's just say you are an email copywriter for technology companies and you just write emails, that's it. Does your ideal client know that their open rates on their email is not good because of bad copywriting? Maybe in the subject lines, maybe in the entire email, whatever it is. Are they aware of the problem? That's the first thing. And then, are they aware of the solution? Do they know that what kind of copywriting can fix it for them? So then that goes into creating your entire strategy.
Okay, that's good to know, actually, because I guess people are going to be at very different stages of awareness, and so it's about raising that awareness, I guess. Is that part of the strategy that you'd adopt, is to try and make people more aware of what their position is?
Yeah, you would speak to their awareness. So that to make someone aware of the problem, you would create content around, are you not getting enough open rates on your email? Something like that.
Yeah.
And then, because a person might think that, a person might not even think that they are not getting enough open rates on their email. They might not even recognize that problem. But when they come across your article, they will begin thinking about it. Yes. So, and then for a person who is aware that that is a problem, then you can create content around how to improve your email open rates.
Yeah.
So that's how the strategy kind of shifts to something different.
Yeah. I guess that's, it's looking at the pain or the problem, and then offering sort of, mini solutions with a view to them being attracted to you as somebody that can help them solve them.
Exactly, yeah. So that's what I say, that nail down your ideal client, and those two are probably the most important things that anyone needs to do that.
Yeah, that's great to know. So if we do nail this ideal client down, how do we attract them? How do we get them to, to us and to our world?
Right. So now you have this ideal client definition at heart, and you might even want to name this person or this community of people.
Yeah.
And you need to then sort of think about how do you relate to their problems? How do you relate to their pain? What are the different kind of pains that this person experiences, that if you help them with just one thing, all of these areas are impacted. And so then what you do, and then what you do is you try to incorporate those things in your marketing. So let's say you have a LinkedIn profile. Now, in your about section, you will talk about their pain point as the first thing. And then, because then they landed on your profile, all right, and then they are reading your about section. They just see a few lines above the fold before they have to click see more or read more, I guess. And so what attracts them to your profile, what attracts them to click on the read more or see more, will be those first 2 to 3 lines. And then when you start the conversation with a pain that they are experiencing or a desire that's really gnawing at them, and that they dream about it and they stay awake thinking about it. When you start nailing down those things, they will click on read more, they will connect with you, and you instantly build this connection with them. and they think, okay, she knows me.
Yeah.
And then another thing that I talk about when it comes to attracting your clients to your profile is really tactical SEO, search engine optimization. So what you do is you think about, if my client wants to search for a person like me, search for my services or my offerings, what do they put into the search bar? So if I'm a technology copywriter, they might put in technology copywriter, tech copywriter, technology writer, all of these different arrangements. Now what you do is you pick 3 primary keywords and you sprinkle them really mindfully across your LinkedIn profile. And there are 4 places where you do this.
I'm going to write this
your
down.
Headline,
Yeah.
your headline, your about section, your experiences section, and your recommendations. So those 4 critical places where you place all these keywords to improve your probability of appearing in really relevant searches on LinkedIn, because many people are starting to use LinkedIn as a search engine in and of itself, because these people are looking for resources to hire. And even in my experience, I've searched for coaches and designers, etc. on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and that's interesting because again, I have had people contact me because they've contacted me through a search, and that's always fascinating me. And I've never really sort of looked into it more, but yeah, and I've also realised is in my profile section, I've got about 2 blank lines because I ask a question and then for impact I'd left the space. So maybe I need to, sort of truncate it so that it's actually all 3 lines are straight after one another rather than just 1 line and a space. Because you only see a little bit, don't you? You don't see all of it. So
and then you really need to pack a punch if you just have 1 sentence in there. It really needs to pick on that 1 pain point that your client has, and more often than not, it's not just one.
No.
There are a lot of different things that are going on in their world, and they just don't know that all of these pains are associated with just one thing.
Yeah.
Which is something that you can solve.
Yeah, I wanted to pick up on a point you made earlier about the fact that one thing that you can communicate in your message and in your profile, in your about section, whatever, is that the impact that you can have on that person can be greater than just about the pain that they're experiencing as well. And there's a knock-on effect. And it's something I talk about quite a lot, actually, is that you fix one thing in your life and actually the impact of that can permeate through the whole of your life. And it's a much greater impact than you've ever sort of thought that was possible. So that's a good point to make, I think.
Sure.
So I was fascinated when you were saying about optimizing your profile. Is there anything else that you would recommend on the profile optimization side?
So include those keywords. So if you're doing that in the headline, I would put in technology copywriter towards the front of the headline, because that is also something that's really a known SEO tactic, to include the keyword really early on in a phrase to get noticed. And then as we start doing these things, you will definitely start to notice that the quality of your search appearances, which is a metric available on your dashboard on LinkedIn, will start to improve in quality. So let's say you are getting found out for the wrong things right now. Some people get found out for engineer or author, which is just like a word that they have mentioned in their about section just once or twice, because there's no focus keywords on their profile.
Right.
And so when you start intentionally including all these keywords in your profile, you will start getting noticed for the thing that you want to get noticed for.
Right. Okay. That makes total sense as well. So I just thought I'd bring up that Stacey said hello. Hello, Stacey.
Hey, Stacey.
So we talked about the profile and creating that sort of organic visibility and that. Is there anything else that you would recommend that somebody does on that basis? Specifically about the profile, is there anything else that you could recommend?
One thing other than this, I would say, if you want that SEO advantage and you don't mind compromising with the branding a bit, is to edit your profile URL to include your targeted keywords. So for the longest time, I had my profile URL as freelance technology writer Divya, all words separated by a dash.
Yes.
So then what that does is when someone is looking for that, not just on LinkedIn, but even on Google, that gives me a chance to pop up.
And do you know how many characters that URL can be? Because I mean, mine's business-coach, but could I add other things in there? Do you know?
I don't know the exact limit to it, but I never had a problem. Like this one was really long, freelance tech writer. So yeah, there's enough space in there.
That's important. I suppose that's the only thing, isn't it? When you change your LinkedIn URL, you have to make sure that any links you've got elsewhere, so on your website or on any platform that you're sharing your LinkedIn profile, that's consistent. Because
it will still point your old links to the new profile for I think about 3 months. I think it's 3 months. I will need to double check this, but I think it's for 3 months, and then that's really enough time for you to go around and edit all those links again.
Yes, yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, okay. So we're attracting all these ideal clients now. So we're swimming, which is good. But how do you speak to that one person? Which places on LinkedIn would you find them to talk to them, and how would you go about that? There's a lot of negative, talk about DMs on LinkedIn, and what's your particular take on that? What's your strategy?
So with the DM strategy, what I like to do is I like to build a rapport with someone if I see them as an ideal client and not just as a network in addition to my network, really casually. But if I see them as an ideal client already, before making a connection to them, I would engage with them in some way. So what I usually do is I look at their content, I comment on their content, I try to have a conversation on their piece of land. So on their content that they're posting, I try to leave some really valuable comments. I try to engage with them so that when I am ready to reach out to them with a personalized connection request, of course, they will recognize me and I'm not a stranger to them anymore. That's
sensible as well, because when you get the connection, then you recognize the name, don't you? Because they've already engaged with you. And it does make it much easier to go, oh yeah, no, she gave me that really insightful comment last week. It's I mean, it's human nature to be like that, isn't it? To sort of recognize. Whereas if somebody just randomly reaches out, it's not as impactful, is it?
No, yeah, it makes a huge difference when you've taken the time to kind of be a part of their world. They will definitely recognize it. Yeah. And then not just that, but to attract people to your profile really organically, just by being part of conversations and appearing in all these conversations. So there are a few things that you can do there. The first thing is to optimize your headline, especially the first 5 to 6 words that are a part of your headline that are visible almost everywhere on LinkedIn, right below your name. So what you want to do is talk about what you do first. So let's say you're a technology copywriter. So you want to have technology copywriter and your primary keyword. So whatever is your primary keyword toward the front of it. Then you want to talk about who do you serve. So technology copywriter for large IT companies in France, you know, no matter how deep you want to go there. And then you want to talk about what is the impact that you're making. So, technology copywriter for large IT companies in France, helping them get more leads through blogs, case studies, or helping them improve their ROI on content, helping them improve their email open rates. So what is the impact that you're making? Now, what this does is, these words are appearing on your profile and anyone can see them wherever you hang out on LinkedIn. So when people see this and they see the connection between you and them, then they come to your profile, they visit your profile.
Yeah, I think that's.
And then what
really
we've done.
It's really interesting how many people don't understand that, because I see so many where it says, I help people who have, and then it goes off, and you don't know what they do or who they help. So it's really important to have that almost like a badge that you wear as you're sort of going around this virtual world.
Yeah, and you want to, I know it's a bit of a challenge to convey the heart of the message of what you do in 5 to 6 words really early in your headline, but try, is my point. If you can do that, well and good. Otherwise, just try to make it a hook that, your ideal client will recognize, and they will take the time to look at your profile. Because then on the profile, what we are doing is we are nailing their pain points and their desires in the about section. So there we are talking at length about what we do, how we help eliminate their pain points, how we help them reach this desire that they think is too far away, and how then that permeates into other parts of their lives, how that makes their lives easier. So we are having somewhat a coffee conversation with them in the about section. So then the trust is getting more solidified in the process.
Yeah. And I think that's something I never really appreciated when I started out, was how many people would jump to my profile having sort of read a comment that I might have made in some person's, feed. It might be something random. It might not be anything relating to my work, but how that can be so impactful and you don't realize it's actually going on. It's quite an incredible thing. The other thing I wanted to ask you is that there is it's like a LinkedIn rumor that you you can add more characters to your LinkedIn profile name by using your phone, using the app rather than using a desktop. Is that something that you know about?
Not that I'm aware of, but that's interesting if it's there, because I definitely wanted to have more words or characters in my headline, and I had to cut short. I think you're talking about the headline, is it?
Yes, the headline. Sorry, yes, yeah. So that's what was interesting, and the reason I believed it to be true was I saw these people were cropping up on LinkedIn, and I was looking at their headline going into their profile, and it was like four lines long, whereas mine was only 3, and I wasn't being able to add any more characters like you. The character limit was used. So I was just interested to know whether there was a swerve around, whether you could get around it some way.
Possibly something to try.
Trying it out.
I think we could use some more space.
Yeah, I think I did try it, but I couldn't get it to work for me. But it would just be interesting to know if that was actually something that you can actually do.
Yeah, probably.
Could make a huge impact, couldn't it? So, yeah. So, what about best practice when it comes to responding to LinkedIn messages? I mean, we could be talking about ideal clients here, or we could be talking about anybody that's messaging us. What are your best practices for responding or not to those messages?
So I try to do it twice a week. I'm just in the DMs twice a week, no more than that. And then the thing with that is that every day you might receive a DM. And my philosophy and my strategy, and something I am really huge on, is leveraging LinkedIn while maintaining your productivity and creativity. So I don't endorse living on LinkedIn per
Right.
se. So I really try to optimize how much time everyone spends on LinkedIn, especially the coaches and copywriters that I work with inside the LinkedIn Lead Gen Academy. So in the final week, we look at, okay, let's create a plan, and then how do we optimize this so that it takes up the least possible amount of time from our schedule each week. And then we try to batch things up, and we try to take a look at, okay, let's keep these two things together. Let's keep these things together, because when you batch up things, it takes a lot less energy and effort, and it makes up for a planning, whether it's for a week or for 2 weeks. So I always create my content in a batch.
Yeah.
I always have like 2 weeks content already lined up at any point of time. So it makes it like really easy. I have one day every 2 weeks where I sit down and I create content. And then I don't have to think about anything else. I don't have to bother about anything else. I just know that today, this is what I'm doing.
And do you post at the same time every day? Is there a recommended time that you would say is more successful?
So when we carry out the detailed questionnaire about knowing your ideal client, we also look at when do they access LinkedIn.
Right.
So if your ideal client is in a different time zone, then you need to account for that too. But think about, are they accessing LinkedIn first thing in the morning? Are they doing it after they have their lunch in the noon? Or are they doing it after they're done with their work day and they're just now leisure time, spending their leisure time on LinkedIn? So for me, what works the best is late evening. So that's 9 p.m. for me. And then most of my ideal clients are in the US. So that's 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. for the US peeps. And it works both for my Indian connections and for my US connections.
Yeah.
So everything we do, we try to think about our ideal clients.
Yes. Yeah. I guess that's really important to think about it from that perspective, rather than what's convenient for you or what you think is the right time to be posting it. It's actually flipping it, isn't it, and putting yourself in the position of the ideal client rather than what's good for you. And it's interesting you say that. You're the first person I've spoken to about LinkedIn that actually has said that, rather than 7:30, 5:30. Those are the two times that you should post on LinkedIn. It's very rigid.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and I mean, I sort of think, well, the most response I get in terms of DMs and that do tend to be at the top and the bottom of the day, which makes sense because large part of people are at work and not on LinkedIn. So, well, you wouldn't believe that if you were on LinkedIn right now, but that's generally what my sort of impression has been. So,
sure.
Yeah. What's your take on the recent practice of using DMs for inappropriate, behaviour? What would you say? I mean, I know that's not really in the brief of what we're talking about now, but it's just something that interests me. Is what would be your best practice suggestion for that?
So first of all, let's not connect with someone who does not have a profile picture or a proper headline.
Yeah.
So, whenever I get a friend request, I get a lot of them. But then again, twice a week, I accept friend requests because I need some time to filter them before I accept anyone into my network. And then what I do is I quickly look at their profiles. You just get a hint of whether it's really a genuine person or, just a bot or something. So just take 2 seconds before accepting people. And then, it happens a lot. I have decided to not spend energy on it. I just block and report as spam or harassment, whatever is the situation, and I just move on. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's really sensible, because you can get yourself lost in it. I mean, I shared a story last couple of months ago where I was contacted via email, actually, from somebody on LinkedIn, and it was totally inappropriate. But what I noticed this week is I had two connection requests from men, one of whom was on an oil rig in America, which is a big red flag for me now. Anybody who works on an oil rig, I think it's spam. It's not real. But so that was red flag. Also for me, when they don't use capital letters, that can be a real flag for me. I just think that's, it's strange that somebody would put their title and wouldn't use capital letters. But what I noticed with this one person who connected with me this week, it was we had 46 mutual connections. But when I went into the mutual connections, they were all women, all of them. So that was a red flag. So I blocked and well, I didn't report that one because there's no reason to report it, but because it looked on Facebook, looked all right. But I just blocked it because I just thought that's unusual. I would think that all of our mutual connections were women. So yeah. But I guess
we just deal and move on. That's it.
In the same way as on Instagram, if you have a load of followers who aren't real or they're not really going to be engaging in your content, there's an ulterior motive. Does that play into the LinkedIn algorithm as well? So if you had lots of connection requests which were not really engaged with you as such, is that going to affect your reach, do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, there's no logic why it would make a difference. I know that LinkedIn as a company is very much involved in making the platform secure and diverse and all of those things, like really comfortable for anyone and everyone. Yeah. But I don't think the algorithm factors in this. And even if it does, like what we can do as individuals is to just do what we can, which is like just take 2 seconds before you accept anyone in your connections. And if you find something that's really not acceptable on LinkedIn, report it as harassment or spam and block and done. Yeah.
I think that's good advice, actually, to just do that and move on. I think it's difficult if you're being harassed, particularly if it's a series of DMs and that. But I think there's a lot of movement at the moment to kind of name and shame, and I'm not part of that academy at all. I'd rather just, like you say, just deal with it professionally, and and then sort of and then let the powers that be deal with whatever consequences there need to be. So I was just trying to think off on my phone whether we've got many people on, but if anybody's watching and they've got a question for Divya, just drop it in the comments, and then we can get it asked and you can have your questions answered. We're just having a look to see what's occurring. So I'll turn my volume down because that's not going to help. It looks like there's a slight delay on the actual broadcast. So, but while we're waiting to see if does any questions do come up, can you tell me a little bit about your LinkedIn Lead Generation Academy? What's that all about? Because you've mentioned it a couple of times and I'm intrigued.
Of course. So LinkedIn Lead Gen Academy is a 2-month program specifically for copywriters, coaches, and other independent business owners who want to leverage LinkedIn to get a consistent stream of high quality leads. So what that means is that high quality leads is just the kind of companies that you want to work with, the kind of people that you want to work with. Now, LinkedIn is just a platform, and it responds to the kind of connections that you're building, the kind of conversations that you're having around LinkedIn. So when we can be really intentional about who we connect with, what kind of conversations we participate in, what kind of content we put out, we can attract the kind of clients that we want to work with. So if you're a copywriter working with coaches, you can decide, and through a series of steps and strategies, you can reach a point where you only get high quality leads that, you know, are a no-brainer for you to convert if you have the bandwidth, of course.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's what the program is, and it's split between it's split into three main modules. The first one is clarity. So we talk about having crystal clarity about who your ideal client is, what it is that you offer, who is it for, and why is it that they should work with you instead of the next person. The second piece is content. So we talk at length about content, the different kinds of content, the different formats and everything. The third piece is conversations. So how to have really insightful and leveraging conversations on LinkedIn that lead to lasting relationships and business relationships and all of that.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. There's a couple of comments coming up here, so I'll just show them for you. So, and then, oh yeah, Grace. Hello, Grace. Grace and I spoke on a podcast last week. So, at what point do you decide? At what point do you decide to move a conversation from LinkedIn to a business email?
So that totally depends on what kind of a funnel you have on LinkedIn. Many people decide to have the conversation on LinkedIn and then they move to a phone conversation or a discovery call or something like that. With your business model, you might have LinkedIn as the entry point for a lead, and then you might want to transfer them to an email when you know that, okay, this is something that I want to pursue. This is a kind of lead that can convert to a client. So you might have a series of questions, maybe 3-4 questions that you ask them right there on LinkedIn. Or you might have a form that they need to fill so that you know that this client is qualified to work with you. And then you shift the conversation to email when you know that, okay, this is a good client for me, can be a good client for me, and you want to take the conversation forward.
Yeah,
I hope that answers.
Yeah, I think that makes sense as well, because at some point you do need to take it off LinkedIn, don't you? But it's like Grace asked, what, you know, it's at what point that is. But I guess as you're talking, you know, that can be determined between yourselves. But yeah, thanks for the question. That's a good one. I don't know if we've got any more questions to come up. So there's not anything else that occurred to me that I wanted to know, but it's been really, really interesting to learn more and more about LinkedIn. So thanks ever so much for your time, Divya. It's been a real pleasure, and I've learned so much already. I've written down things. I've got to rewatch the video later so I can make sure I haven't missed anything. And I'm going straight back into
Thank you. So, I hope this was insightful for everyone watching too. And if there are any follow-up questions, I would definitely get back to the comments. So if you're watching this on replay, leave your questions in the comments and I'll definitely get back to them.
Sure. And where can people, I mean, apart from LinkedIn, where else can they find you?
So I'm on Facebook. I am on Instagram, but not as active as I am on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I'm at the same at the Divya Agrawal. So brilliant. That's where I'm at.
Okay. Well, thanks very much. It's been an honour, and hopefully we'll be able to do it again soon at some point. And this is Divya's first live on LinkedIn. I think she's done exceptionally well. So you know, very good.
Thank you.
Take care, and